To actually look for slug problems, you need to know the paddock's history and probably do some monitoring in the crop previously before it goes into canola next year. So some of the benchmarks to look for with the activity of slugs, particularly the black-keeled slug we find up here, is over 25% soil moisture is when they're active on the surface, and above 96% relative humidity. In the springtime, again, is the best time to monitor because of that soil moisture. But the other thing we can look at is bulky crops, such as behind me. We expect to find better breeding in those bulky crops. To manage those areas, it is critical to put bait on at the right time, which is after sowing. So farmers need to be proactive and understand that. And then you can also do some cultural practices prior to sowing, but it is absolutely critical to protect the seed and the seedlings with the bait applied to protect the crop. So to support baiting, you need an integrated approach that includes cultural controls. One of those is, say, incorporating lime, a bit of cultivation, and particularly rolling after sowing to reduce the habitat for slugs. So those cultural controls are aimed at getting an increased wind speed on the soil surface. So of course that decreases the relative humidity, so the slugs are less active, so you get less feeding. But that still needs to be in combination with baits as part of an integrated approach. So one of the other cultural practices is improved crop establishment, and particularly some canola varieties establish quicker than others. The classic being triazine tolerant canolas are a lot slower. So in a high risk area, you would be looking to establish large size seed that establishes really quickly and looking for cultivars that are very quick to establish. So establishing canola, particularly in New South Wales where you can get dry sowing and split germination, is always difficult and harder to manage. And that's where your bait choices come in. So in different seasons, you might be doing different things with your bait and incorporating that with your cultural practices. So once we've got our cultural practices right and we're understanding the risk from monitoring the previous season, product choice is really important. Some of the fundamentals are probability of encounter, which includes attractiveness, activity of the slugs, and also the number of pellet points. Then they have to consume a lethal dose. So there's a lot of work gone into putting attractive compounds into baits to improve chance of encounter. Attractiveness in baits is really important to improve chance of encounter, but the bait still has to be applied when slugs are active, and you only know that by understanding your soil moisture profile or some monitoring with some surface refuges. So as part of an integrated approach, monitoring underpins that. The easiest way to do it is with some white drums, about half full of water, tip about half of that out, and then the moisture will see the slugs look for that condensation, particularly along the side of the drum. And you can put that out in late winter, but again prior to sowing, to look at surface activity of the slugs. So when we're talking about chance of encounter, the other thing is not only pellet units per square metre, but also they're evenly distributed. So it's really important to calibrate your spreaders. So even your twin spinner urea spreaders, when calibrated, are very effective at getting bait on and large areas quickly, which is what is required when you're trying to protect your crop from these black wave of doom that we quite often see in late May. To manage slugs, you have to understand they're not the same as insects. They actually should be living in the sea. Moisture is a key driver of their activity. So understanding that underpins good management of slugs. So in managing slugs, we have to understand the context in which we're applying the baits. So bait placement will depend on what cultural practices you're putting in place. If you're, say, using a prickle chain, it would be very different to where you're in a complete no-till system where you're using press wheels and you're putting the bait down in the row where the slugs are moving in that system. So context is king. The key to successful establishment of canola is applying bait at the right time. A good quality bait applied at the wrong time will lead to a poorer result than any bait applied at the right time, which is directly after sowing to protect the seed and the seedling.